Boys, Ceiling MMA here, and today I'm gonna be doing a rant. I'm holding the mic close to my face just so you lot can hear everything I'm saying because you probably know by now I have a shit mic, so it doesn't pick up much audio. So you might be able to hear my breathing a lot. I have a bit of a cold, so you might be able to hear some sniffling. But like, I have to do a rant, you know. And you've seen the title of the video. You've seen the title of the video. I don't want to mispronounce anything. This video is about Brandon Moreno, who is my second favourite UFC fighter after my glorious king Charles do Bronx Oliveira. And this video is about how underrated Brandon Moreno is. And before I get into the video, you lot are probably wondering why I have a bedtime MMA video right here on screen. And I'll talk about that in a second. No hate to any of the creators I'm going to mention in this video. I'm only mentioning two or I think three in this video. One will be briefly. And I'm subscribed to all three of the people I'm going to mention. And I like all their content and shit. So, anyways, starting, we're going to start here, So, bedtime MMA. I'm looking at my phone this morning. Just got out of bed. Makes a video. Most skillful UFC champions ever in every division. Pretty cool. Great video idea. Pete Ian as the thumbnail, which is obviously great. There was some questionable takes in this video, like having RDA as like the second most skilled lightweight champ, which I'm not even going to talk about that. The most questionable one, for me at least, I'll pull it up in a second for you lads. This is the most questionable take from Bedtime MMA's video. So he did the top 3 most skilled flyweight champions, right? I'm glad you didn't include Cejudo here because I agree with that. I do. And Demetrius Johnson at 1, I don't mind. It's pretty obvious, to be honest. DJ, you know, very skilled fella. But the fact that Bedtime didn't include Brandon Moreno in this listing, to me is honestly, yeah, we're on MMA YouTube, so I can say what I want. Bit retarded, if you ask me, right? So you include Figgy at number 2, the number 2 most skilled flyweight champion, whatever. Brandon Moreno, in both the second fight and the fourth fight, which is the most recent one with Davison Figueiredo, outstruck on the feet and outgrappled Davison Figueiredo. If you watch the second fight, he drops Figgy, he's outstriking him, and he took him down without rocking him and submitted him. If you watch the fourth fight, up until the cut, which obviously caused the stoppage, Brandon Moreno was outstriking him on the feet, landing better and more shots, and apart from one guillotine attempt from Figgy, was out-grappling him the whole fight. And the fight was 3 rounds, I believe, right? He was getting takedowns, he was getting control time on him, okay? Yes, Moreno got out-grappled by Pantoja, and Figgy didn't. Moreno fought peak Alessandro Pantoja. He fought peak Pantoja. Figgy fought Pantoja when Pantoja, I would say, wasn't at his best. He hadn't developed his striking enough. His grappling was nowhere near as strong offensively. Moreno fought peak Pantoja, who honestly I think that version of Pantoja beats Figgy. That might be a hot take, but so yeah, I don't understand how you've got Figgy as the second most skilled flyweight ever, but not the guy who outstruck him and outgrappled him. Not even in there. Because I think Moreno, although he lost to him, is more skilled than Pantoja. I mean, you can think someone is more skilled than someone else, even if they lost to them. Like, for instance, in right here, Bedtime thinks Figgy is more skilled than Moreno, even though they're 2-1-1. You know, Moreno being the 2. Now, moving away from Bedtime for a second, or just in general, we've got Lucas Tracy. Once again, I'm a fan of Lucas Tracy, and I saw this video a few months ago. Obviously, this list will have probably changed by now because it was pre-Albazi win for Moreno. It was pre-Asakura for Pantoja. You know, now I think Lucas would probably agree Pantoja's above Figgy. You have Cejudo above Brandon Moreno on your flyweight GOAT list. Now, I want to say this first. This video is going to seem like I'm glazing, and I am. He's one of my favourite fighters, and I have to defend my favourite fighters, you know, and call out when they're being underrated. And if he loses to Usyk, this won't age well. Actually, it will. You know what? Because Usyk arguably beat Pantoja. Usyk's an elite striker with really good defensive grappling. He's just got, you know, it was a tough matchup, Kai Kara France. That was a tough matchup for Usyk. He doesn't do well with switch hitters. I don't know. That's actually a really close fight, Moreno versus Usyk. But whatever. I'm gonna put up some images. And I'm gonna show you why having Cejudo above Moreno on the flyweight GOAT list is dumb, and why there's a very good argument that Moreno is also above Davis and Figueiredo on this list. Henry Cejudo is one of the most overrated fighters, especially on the GOAT list. And I might make a video about that separately, because I could do that. There's a lot of stuff I could talk about there. But I'm just going to talk about him in comparison to Brandon Moreno on the flyweight GOAT list. So let's look at their wins. Brandon Moreno's best win is definitely Figueiredo twice. Davis and Figueiredo, in my opinion, could be argued to be a top 15 all-time fighter, especially with those bantamweight wins. I think he's above Moreno all-time, but on the flyweight GOAT list it's more debatable. It's just Figgy has 3 like very solid bantamweight wins that kind of boost him. But okay, let's just compare these. So Figueiredo twice, right, already beats one DJ win, I would say. Because yeah, one DJ win's great. He's a top 10, probably top 5 fighter all time. I need to look more into that. But firstly, I thought that fight was a robbery. If you score MMA based on damage, then that fight kind of has to be a robbery. And MMA is scored on damage, right? DJ had 3 rounds on damage of that fight. And yeah, that's all I can say. You have to go back and watch it. So Figgy twice, right? Then you've got, for Cejudo, you've got TJ Dillashaw, who was drained. He was a drained 125er. We saw what happened to Cody when he was at 125. Knocked out in the first round. Same thing with TJ. Drained, killing himself to make the weight. Not the best version of TJ Dillashaw. And then, you know, you see Moreno, he's got Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval is probably, and I think Brandon Royval's underrated, the best flyweight to never win a belt. He's probably better than Benavidez, I'm not going to lie, because if you actually think about it, I mean, he's beat Moreno, although I'll talk about that later, that loss. He's beat Tatsuro Taira. He's beat Mateus Nicolau, which is a good win. He's beat Kai Kara France. He has a better resume than Benavidez. He's one of the best flyweights, probably the best flyweight to never win a belt. That's a really good win, I think. And people talk about the injury for that fight. Moreno got Royval down, got him in a position on the ground where he was able to fully pin him. It might have been a crucifix, I'm not 100% sure, but he was able to fully pin him. Royval got injured while he was pinned down on the ground, and Moreno was holding him down anyway and hitting him with hammer fists that led to a stoppage. I mean, the injury played a factor, but that's still a clean win. It was a win caused by something that Moreno did to him, if you know what I mean. So it's not really a fluke, if you ask me. But even then, Kai Kara France twice. Great win. Kai Kara France coming off a knockout over the guy who arguably beat Pantoja. I would say one Kai win is better than that version of TJ. But now he's got 2, right? They both have a Juicio Formiga win. Fair enough. Cejudo has, and Formiga's pretty good. Cejudo has a Sergio Pettis win, who did beat Moreno. Obviously, it was pre-prime Moreno before getting cut from the UFC ages ago. Really not the best version of him, but he did beat him. Sergio Pettis, I mean, he's pretty good, but like, I don't know, he's really good in Bellator, that's all I'll say. It's not like a crazy good win. I'd say it's around the same level as Albazi, who had a very competitive fight with Kai Kara France. I thought Kai should have won, but it was competitive, and Albazi's also like, whenever he's not fighting someone like at the top of the rankings, he's finishing them, or he's dominating them, you know, he's doing very well. Like, Albazi is actually kind of underrated. I don't like him, but he's kind of underrated, and you know, he also does get finishes as well, so I think that's a narrative. But my point is, I don't think you can have Henry Cejudo above Brandon Moreno on the flyweight GOAT list. If you're looking at resume, I think that's what it should be ranked on. They have the same number of title wins as well. Moving on to Davis and Figueiredo. Now with this one, it's kind of like, okay, I can see why you would have Figgy above Moreno on the flyweight GOAT list, and he might be. It's very close. I think all time Figgy's above Moreno because of his bantamweight wins, which are good. But if you want to like compare resumes, okay, Figgy beat Pantoja, great win. It was Pantoja once again before his prime. I think that version of Pantoja he wasn't at his best. Figgy was on the come up. That was prime Figgy, who was, you know, heading towards the title. wasn't prime Pantoja. I think he actually lost to Askar Askarov after that. So I don't think it was him in his prime. It's still a great win that it's aged well. And then Figgy twice. Figgy has a Moreno win, but I mean it's Moreno is 2 above him. He's got 2 wins over him. The draw in the first fight should have been a draw, because if you intentionally, which it wasn't, it seemed intentional, and even then, if you kick someone clean in the bollocks, like, that's a point deduction. That's why it was a draw. Should have been a draw. Benavidez twice. I'll compare that with Kai Kara France twice. Benavidez was an older version of himself, and he was past his prime. Still a great win. I think prime Kai twice is a bit better, to be honest. And then Alex Perez, pretty good win. But Moreno also has Amir Albazi and Jussier Formiga and Royval. I think this is close because of the Pantoja win. But if you want to look at quantity mixed with quality, you kind of have to leave Moreno here. I don't think saying Figgy is above Moreno is underrating him. I think saying Cejudo is above him on the flyweight GOAT list is definitely underrating him. Now I need to talk about kind of what I think the root of this underrating is, and I think it's Moreno's recent career. So in his last 3 fights, he is 1-2. His win being in his most recent fight against Albazi, and his losses being both split decisions to Pantoja and Royval. Now the Pantoja split, I mean, it's Pantoja. He's one of the best offensive grapplers in the sport. He's underrated himself. He's really good at mixing it up. And it was super competitive, and Moreno outstruck him. Which, by the way, I was fucking arguing with someone the other day about this. About what were we arguing about? I think it was who was more skilled between Moreno and I think Corey Sanhagen. And I was saying Moreno, and I was saying, well, Corey's out-grappled like Rob Font, whereas we've seen Brandon Moreno out-grapple Figueiredo, and Corey's like he was, Umar outstruck him, and Umar looked kind of mid with no takedown threat against Merab on the feet, and Moreno's outstruck Kai, and he outstruck Pantoja, and this guy said to me, what do you mean? Moreno got dominated by Pantoja everywhere. And I was like, oh, so you just watch the highlights then? Because I feel like that's what people do. They see the one highlight of Moreno in the first round getting knocked down by Pantoja, and they don't see the fact that in every other round Moreno outstruck him when it was on the feet, and it was Pantoja's offensive grappling and control and doing damage through control that won him the fight in a very close split decision, right? Anyways, we go into the Royval fight, and let's talk about this. So the first note I have here is that it was at altitude. So Brandon Royval trains at altitude. He trains at, is it called high altitude? I don't think it is. I think he trains at Factory X, but he trains in Colorado at a high altitude. He's known for having the best cardio in this division. If you watch the Tyra fight, he was going at the same pace the whole time. Tyra was gassing after like the second round. So that's already a disadvantage for Moreno, who has trained in Tijuana in Mexico, which isn't at altitude. And I think he also trains now in Vegas, which not at altitude. And this fight was in Mexico City at altitude, right? Moreno shows up in this fight the whole time. Instead of, usually we see him going in there, he's jabbing, he's throwing the right hand over the top while coming forward, he's using the left hook a lot, mixes in the kicks to leg, body, and head. He's in this fight, all he's doing is backing up and throwing the overhand. That's it. That's all he was doing. Yeah, and with that, even with that, all those things that I just said, he took Brandon Royval, who's elite, in my opinion, the best flyweight to never win a belt, which is something that Bedtime talked about as well, to a split decision, a very close split decision. I did give it to Royval, but it was still very close. And that's another thing with Bedtime. He made a video saying, like, was it the most underrated fighter in every division, something like that, and he had Royval for flyweight, and I think it's Moreno, but like it could be Royval, you know what I mean? And he said Royval beat Moreno by 50-45, and that's another thing where it's like people don't watch the fights. They follow the narratives. You know, if you just followed what people were saying after this fight about Brandon Moreno, you know, people calling him washed, people were shitting on him, saying, I saw people saying Royval owns him. You would think like this guy got like Max Holloway, Calvin catered by Brandon Royval. It was super close, you know. And then Moreno shows up a few months later. He says he needs a break. He takes the break. Fights like just like he normally does, unlike how he fought in the Royval fight. And he dog walked a top contender in Amir Albazi, who isn't. Yeah, I think Amir Albazi's probably the worst top 5 guy, but like he's still good, you know. And Brandon Moreno fucking dog walked him. I think that version of Moreno definitely beats Royval. And I mean, we'll see how the Erceg fight goes. But alright, finally, I do want to talk about the skill of Brandon Moreno. I think, yeah, okay, we're getting into I mean, I've already been glazing, but I'm just kind of stating shit that's happened, you know? We need to talk about this guy as one of the most skilled fighters in the UFC, because not only is he a flyweight, and we all know that shit with lighter man skill, which I was thinking of making a video about. I think lighter man skill is like kind of undeniable at this point. It's a thing. But people talk about Davison Figueiredo. He's this elite grappler, elite BJJ, really good submissions. I agree with all of that. I think he is those things. He has good wrestling too. I mean, he took down Peter Yan in the opening seconds of their fight, which was impressive. Peter Yan's a really good grappler, really underrated himself. Moreno out-grappled him in the second and fourth fight. I've talked about this. So let's just get on to Kai Kara-France. I think it was Kenny Okoye, and this is who I like his content too. I think this is the third creator I'll mention, Kenny Okoye, who said Kai Kara-France is the best striker at 125. He said something like that. And this is a narrative that I see people saying, or they say like, oh, it's Royval, then it's Kai, you know? Moreno outstruck this guy twice. First fight, it was pretty back and forth, but clear winner. Clear Moreno win. Rocked Kai Kara-France a couple times too. And in the second fight, I've seen people saying another thing that pisses me off. Once again, they follow the narrative and don't watch the fight. I've seen people saying, oh, it was Moreno's grappling that helped him in the Kai fight. Moreno didn't get a takedown. Kai Kara-France got a takedown. If you see how in the last round of the fight, I think it was the third round, Moreno had like a cut in his face and he was all bloody. That was because Kai took him down and landed like an elbow, landed like good shots when he actually got the takedown. So it was actually Kai who got off shit with his grappling, which it doesn't really look good for Moreno's like well-roundedness. But then again, like he kind of got caught off guard. You don't really expect Kai Kara-France to shoot, especially when they were like scrapping the whole fight and on the feet. And he got hit with like one shot and got up straight away. With the second fight, going into the third round, it was either 2-0 Moreno or 1-1. And then in the third round, Moreno finishes him with a body kick, right? Perfectly placed body kick. It kind of reminds me of the Max Holloway-Ilya fight. Like, there's an argument for one. It was probably 1-1 Max going into round 3. There's an argument for 2-0 Ilya, right? And then in the third round, Ilya finished him. And the narrative around that fight is, yeah, Ilya outstruck Max, which he did. It's the same thing here, right? And I just want to talk about, like, okay, so he's outstruck an elite striker, or at least a very, very good striker. He's out-grappled an elite grappler in Davison Figueiredo, and also stuffed all of Albazi's takedowns, apart from one which he got up from straight away. And Albazi's a great wrestler. But, like, he's not one of the most skilled fighters in the UFC? You know? Really? Are we sure? And he's not top 3 in the flyweight division. You know? He's not above the guy who he beat everywhere. Nah. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of annoying. But yeah, once again, it's more following the narrative over actually watching the fights, I feel. And yeah, this has been a bit of a rant. Honestly, I don't know. I've just been a bit pissed off today, lads. So I felt like making a little rant. So yeah, see you in a bit. Subscribe and that shit. In a bit, lads.